Okay, remember when you multiply positive and negative numbers that you need to count the number of negatives, and if it's an even number of negatives, then we're going to have a positive number, and if it's an odd number of negatives, we'll have a negative number. So in this first example, we have 5 times negative 7. Okay, so in A, 5 times negative 7 would just be, you multiply the 5 and the 7, and you get 35, and because there's one negative number in this problem, the answer is a negative number. Okay. And so in the second one, very same thing. Okay, multiply 5 times 7. Okay, so negative 5 times 7, but we'll multiply the 5 and the 7, and that will give us 35. And because there's only one negative number, the 5, then we get negative 35. For C, we have 5 times 7. That's exactly like you've always done. 5 times 7, 35. Notice that there's no negative numbers here, so that's an even number. 0 is an even number, and so an even number of negatives makes it positive. All right? And in D, same thing. We have negative 5 times negative 7, so we multiply 5 times 7 and get 35. We count the negatives. There's one negative, there's two negatives. So an even number of negatives makes it positive. All right, great. Now, let's look at number 6. Okay, for number 6, we have a blank, and then a negative 6, negative 3, and that equals negative 72. Well, what is negative 6 times negative 3? Okay, that part right there is positive 18, right? It's 18, 6 times 3, but then there's two negatives, so positive 18. We need to multiply that positive 18 times something to get a negative 72. So is our answer going to be a positive number or a negative number? Right, it's going to be negative because we want to multiply a negative times a positive to get a negative. All right, good. And what about the number? How do we figure out what times 18 is 72? Okay, 4. Great. So negative 4. I'll just type that in. Awesome. Okay, then let's look at number 8. Okay, use front-end rounding to estimate the answer, then find the exact answer. Tuition at the State University is $185 per credit for undergraduates. How much tuition, pop-ups. How much tuition will undergraduate Wei Chen pay for 14 credits? Okay, so we can use front-end rounding. In this case, what does 185 round to using front-end rounding? Front-end rounding just means we're going to have one number and then zeros after it. So the first number, the 1, rounds to a 2 because the 8 is bigger than 5, and then we have 200. Okay, good. And she's going to take 14 credits, but we also have to round to 14. So 14 gets rounded. We have 1 here. 1 gets rounded just to 10 because 4 is less than 5. Okay, so we can multiply this. She has to pay $200 a credit for about 10 credits, and that would multiply to give us $2,000. Okay, so this is the rounded answer. And then to get the exact answer, we'll multiply 185 times 14, okay, times, and that will give us 2,590. Great.